Most people, and if you're honest with yourself, you too, enjoy being the victim. You might not enjoy the victimization itself, the house burning down, the loss of a loved one, betrayal by someone you trusted. You might not enjoy those parts, but you love what comes with the victim label. In this video, the subject is victim mentality, what it is, how it shows up, and why it's problematic if you're looking to grow and thrive in life. So what is victim mentality? Victim mentality is when you believe you have no control over things that happen to you and life is inherently unfair for you or your group. It's a mindset in which a person feels bad things always happen to them and the world is against them. It's that person with the woe is me energy. If that's not you, you very likely know someone who has this mindset. And if that is you, you should understand how this can negatively impact your life and your relationships. See, being a victim's not real power, but it feels that way. You get the attention, you get the sympathy, you get the excuses for your deficiencies and your failures. And it's very likely that other people will make excuses for you. How could that not feel like power? Unfortunately, many of the excuses seem to justify you being and remaining stuck in a lower vibration, being and remaining stuck with a poor mindset, being and remaining stuck in a situation that is less than ideal. So what's consciously or unconsciously being perceived as power showing up in the form of attention really leaves you feeling helpless, i.e. powerless. But if you're not conscious of this fact and accept this negative mindset that you indeed are a victim and you have no control over your life, then it becomes true. You will have no control, you will remain stuck, and life will just keep having its way with you. What does victim mentality look like? Lack of accountability, blaming others, constant negativity, repressed anger, making excuses, helplessness, self-pity, self-doubt, low self-esteem in general, entitlement, being easily offended, and more. Now, solely possessing any of these characteristics doesn't automatically mean a person has a victim mindset, but rather they are characteristics that tend to show up in those who do. And the most obvious sign of a victim mindset is lack of accountability and blaming others for your circumstances. Nothing is ever your fault. If it wasn't for so-and-so, if it wasn't for such and such. And people like this don't apologize because they've done nothing wrong. Unfortunately, it's pretty common in romantic relationships where one partner blames the other for their unhappiness. Their partner is the reason they don't have friends. Their partner is the reason they stop chasing their dreams. Their partner is the reason they don't speak to their mother anymore. Instead of taking responsibility for the state of their life and the decisions they made, it's easier for them to cope by calling the partner insecure, controlling, a narcissist. While that doesn't mean the partner doesn't have insecurities or controlling tendencies, that person still has to take ownership of their role and decision to remain in the relationship and take responsibility for the very fact that they chose their partner. They chose to put their aspirations on the back burner. They chose not to seek companionship outside of the relationship. They ultimately chose to stop speaking to their mother. But a person who feels they are always the victim doesn't seem to be able to see it that way. They take no responsibility, they just make excuses. If they underachieve, it's because the system's rigged. If they do poorly in school, it's because the teacher doesn't like them. If they're obese, rather than making healthier life changes, they point to the fact that society is fat phobic and society should change. And if they have numerous failed relationships, it's because they all were toxic. Now, constant negativity is another sign that someone may be suffering from a victim mindset. A person with a victim mentality is essentially a self-centered pessimist. Back to the woe is me. It's all negative and it's usually always happening to them. They can't even empathize with another person's struggles because they believe their problems are always worse. No one has it harder than a person with a victim mentality, and they will make sure you know it. You lost your job? That's nothing. They lost their job, unfairly of course. Their wife left them. She was ungrateful. The dog died. And on top of all that, they just got a speeding ticket. And of course, it wasn't their fault. And the funny thing is, people with a victim mentality tend to overshare their misfortunes.
It's always something.
That's a line an ex-coworker of mine used to always use almost on a daily basis. And I remember thinking, damn, it is always something with you, ain't it? So yeah, he was right. There is always something. See, I'm a big proponent of manifestation, and constant negativity manifests a cycle of unfortunate events. I repeat, constant negativity manifests a cycle of unfortunate events. But whether those events are large or small, they are magnified by the person with a victim mindset. This person lives and breathes pessimism. They can be so negative, oftentimes they project their negative beliefs and limitations onto others, making them difficult people to be around, leading to poor relationships. The law of attraction dictates that you attract what you put out, you reap what you sow. So the "it's not my fault," self-loathing, constantly negative person tends to be surrounded by others who think and feel the same. Misery loves company. And what better way to find validation than to affiliate with others who give you affirmation and approval in your negative thinking? Their constant negativity is likely attributed to them having a fixed mindset. They don't believe their circumstances can be changed, leading to learned helplessness. Learned helplessness occurs when people feel they have no control over their situation, which leads to a lack of effort in altering their circumstances. Learned helplessness often induces passivity, causing people to stop trying to escape difficult situations even when solutions are available. This reluctance to seek help or explore alternatives fosters a cycle of inaction and stagnation. Low self-esteem commonly accompanies learned helplessness. I would argue that it's impossible to have a positive sense of self-worth while simultaneously viewing yourself as a victim. There's a feeling of self-pity and self-doubt when a person feels they don't have the power to change their circumstances. This sense of powerlessness can create a feeling of being trapped, leading to anxiety and anger. People with a victim mentality tend to internalize their anger, leading to feelings of resentment. So sometimes they're not even aware of the anger that they carry. So mix low self-esteem with anger and anxiety, and you have the perfect formula for a person who gets offended very easily. Because the victim mentality always has you on high alert, always interpreting the actions of others as personal attacks. And in many ways, it seems like people with this condition are looking for ways to be offended. Take cancel culture, for instance. For the last 5 to 10 years at least, it's been a very sensitive environment with people walking on eggshells, not wanting to say the wrong thing or make the wrong move and risk offending anyone. A comedian makes a mild joke about coffee addictions, and person in the crowd gets upset because they feel he's making light of people with real addictions. Or a white student wears a kimono to a Japanese themed event, and a person who is not of the culture gets offended, accusing them of culture appropriation, even though the Japanese guests at the event are unbothered or even appreciative. It's quite possible that my use of the word victim in this video could offend someone because instead of trying to understand my points or my perspective, they could say I'm diminishing the experience of those who are actual victims to sexual, domestic, emotional, or victims of crimes in general. And funny enough, the person to be most likely offended usually hasn't gone through any of that trauma. It's almost as if they're unable to understand any other perspective and perceive any opinion that opposes their own as an attack. So everyone who disagrees with them becomes an enemy in their eyes. They expect automatic loyalty regardless of facts, And if you don't validate their narrative, they feel betrayed. This is where the entitlement and manipulation come into play. People with a victim mentality sometimes play the victim card to gain sympathy or some semblance of control. You see this a lot in identity politics. Not only are you black, but you're also a woman and you're also a lesbian. So you got the triple whammy going on, which calls for extra sensitivity and a little more special treatment. And if they don't get the special treatment that they feel entitled to, we got problems. It's like the victim Olympics, where it's almost people competing to see who has it worse, who has it harder. Kind of sad and pathetic, to be honest. Now, let me be clear. Victims of assault, victims of hate, victims of crimes in general, they are justified in feeling like they've been done wrong. I'm not refuting that at all. I'm talking about a mindset. You can have a victim mindset and not actually be a victim of anything. And you can have a victim mindset and have actually been victimized. Even actual victims will continue to struggle until they heal, until they no longer wear their past, till they no longer wear their pain. Learning that what they've been through in their past does not necessarily define them. So why is having a victim mentality problematic? It becomes problematic when we identify ourselves with our pain and trauma. We can become so attached to that part of ourselves, that pain or trauma, that we're afraid to let it go. We want to let it go. We want to be healed. But if that trauma is no longer a part of who we identify as, then who are we? And just that unknown can give us enough anxiety to regress or remain stagnant. So we continue to wear our pain on our sleeve, or for those who are more private, ready to pull it out like a license when the opportunity presents itself, that victim card. Let's face it, holding on to these things sometimes gives us a lifelong excuse for our shortcomings. It gives us an excuse of why we haven't achieved this or that. We can blame someone else or an unfortunate event for why we haven't created a better life for ourselves. For instance, I'm a black man in this world, a black man in America. I can think of a few excuses that I could use to justify me not being exactly where I want to be right now. And a lot of people will back me up and support me on that and feel I was justified in saying that. But no, I don't believe that I can simultaneously believe in a higher power and at the same time turn and say, but the white man. I don't know, it just don't make sense to me. You know, people will say I can do all things through Christ, whoever they believe in, and then still come up with some reason why something in this world is holding them back. No weapon formed shall prosper, but the white man. I just won't get over that. Racism and bigotry exist, and they're not going anywhere. But for me to cling on to those as reasons why I'm not where I want to be in life, it's just not an option for me. I've been overlooked for positions for my hairstyle and my hair length. That job wasn't for me. There'll be more opportunities, greater opportunities. That's how I choose to see it. You can choose to be a victim. And you know what comes with that? You'll continue to be victimized. You continue to find yourself falling short of your goals. You continue to be overlooked. You continue to have a life that you're less than satisfied with. I remember hearing this example like many years ago, and it made so much sense to me. You know, I can't repeat it verbatim, but the idea was that if you accuse someone of having their foot on your neck and you've just relinquished your power to them, you've given another person or circumstance control over your life and potentially the outcome. It is now on them to remove their foot from your neck because clearly you can't. And a more important question is, what if they never remove their foot?